This is the Veteran Woman Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to empowering, inspiring, and encouraging veteran women to overcome their struggles and celebrate their successes. Now, here's your host, the one and only Ariel Renal.
Whoop, whoop. This is another episode of the Veteran Woman Podcast. Yay! It is your host, Ariel Renal. And today, guess who I have on the other line? It's none other than Henry Washington. And I know he wants to say the H and the third and all that, but we'll get into that later. But first of all, I want to talk about how I met Henry, because it's been an interesting journey, an interesting last few months. I actually was being interviewed on the 40 Plus Wonders blog talk radio show by Sky Wonders. And because she knew I was a veteran, she had him call in. So he called in. I found out that he's a big Dallas Cowboys fan, even though he lives in Georgia. And we just really connected since then, and we've been collaborating over the last few months. So this is definitely not the last time that you will hear from Henry Washington. So first of all, Henry retired as a major from the U.S. Army. How many years did you do, Henry?
25.
25. So he did well over the standard 20. He originally came in 88 as a chemical specialist, and then he later went into military police, the MP world, and he claims that he's one of the best investigators. So it's fun to be investigating the investigator and to be interviewing the radio show host, because he also has his own show, the Peace Within radio show, on Wigo AM. On Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So, Henry has a lot going on. He works with the Prostate Cancer Coalition of Georgia. He has his own foundation working with youth. Just so much. So, Henry, tell us more about yourself. You can go ahead and give yourself accolades, because I know you're never at a loss for words, or you're not shy at all. So go ahead.
Well, I'm a very shy guy.
That's a lie.
But, I really appreciate it.
That's an alternative fact. Excuse me.
Wow. First of all, you guys, Ariel is doing a phenomenal job. I really thank her for all her great work that she's doing with the Veteran Women's group, and especially this podcast. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So proud of you. But, sometimes the host, of his own radio show do not have a lot of words. But I'll carry on anyway. You mentioned, a lot of my purposes that I currently am doing. And I didn't, know that those that you named were going to be my purpose because, you're going through the military, all you're doing is you're focusing on your mission, your troops, and getting back home safely. So I really didn't have time to focus on what I thought my purpose would be then until I retired. And then I realized that, I had multiple purposes through God's grace. I fought cancer, I beat that, came back from that. After that, I realized that it was so many men dying of prostate cancer until I, joined a prostate cancer group here in Atlanta, who's also, propels to take over the whole state of Georgia to ensure that men in general are getting, screened for prostate cancer. So that's kind of one of my large tasks now, as well as, my youth program and the foundation. Those are large things that are on my plate right now. I got a lot going on, and I'm having fun doing it because I'm in my purpose.
There you go. So tell us more about your youth foundation.
The Youth Foundation, Henry H. Washington III, the number 3.
I told you wanted to put that H in and the third and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta do that because it's three of us. Two have passed away of prostate cancer, and I'm still here. I fought it, and I'm still living and standing and growing. So as far as the foundation, when it comes to the youth program, it's called Go Get Our Boys. And, a couple of friends and I sat down and we came up with the title because, you know as well as I know, when we're going to a deployment in the military, and you have people who have been captured. And if you're a part of a special operation, it's called Go Get Our Boys. Let's go get our boys. The commander would always say, let's go get our boys. It's nothing against, females that are captured either. It's just, that's just the term that we've used in infantry and military police and those type of areas that go out in the forefront and go get our boys. So I utilize that concept here in the civilian world because it's like we are in war when it comes to our young people. Our young people are being taken over by other influences. It doesn't have to be a person that's taken over, but it's things, places, that are taking over our youth in their minds. So it's my charge and my friends that I've collected, our charge to go get our boys out in the streets. Right now, we're in Fulton County at Woodland Middle School, and it's called Go Get Our Boys. And we're absolutely enjoying it. We have 30 boys right now that we have under our pilot program, our first school, and doing real well. We see the progress, and we hear the progress from the teachers, the principals, and the acquaintances around the school.
And for those who are listening, if they want to participate or help, how can they do that?
Yeah, no doubt. It's too easy. You can definitely give me a call. And my number is 404-858-4670. And also you can hit me up on my website. I'll give you that as well. www.henryhwashington3.com. And also you can make contact with me via email. It's henryhwashington, 3 at gmail.com.
I wish I could see him on Skype because he's making that face as he says H and 3. That was just a mouthful for me. I apologize. Well, not really, but
Right.
So tell us about, where do I want to start? Well, we did a show in February about PTSD, and that was a very popular show. He featured me on the Wigo AM radio station, his Peace Within radio station. Oh, before I get there, talk about the awards you've won.
Wow. You gonna put me like that? You gonna put me out on
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'm blessed. My radio station is blessed, Wigo AM 1570, Atlanta's Incredible Radio. We just won the Stellar Award for the best marketing radio show here, definitely in Atlanta. Not just Atlanta, but the surrounding areas. We competed against about 17 other stations, and we won.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, and tonight my show is on the Peace Within radio show. Is on tonight at 6 p.m. So definitely tune in on Wigo AM 1570, Atlanta's Incredible Radio.
And it is a Wednesday. So if you didn't catch that, that's Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. So
That's right.
All right. And didn't you win an award as well?
We take part in that same award because we got a plaque and we got a trophy. Okay. So we all take part in that award.
Congratulations. So again, we talked about PTSD, and yeah. I know I'm finding that, well, for everyone, it's hard to talk about PTSD. Mm-hmm. But I'm also running into quite a few male veterans who feel some kind of way about claiming disability or doing their VA compensation when it comes to stuff other than physical ailments.
Yeah.
What would you say to those other male veterans as far as advice on doing the VA compensation and not feeling some kind of way about it? Not feeling less than because your wounds aren't visible.
Yeah, I would say, to each man out there, don't be shy. Don't let your manhood stand in the way of doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, because you need to be here for your families. So I tell every man that I talk to, when it comes to them just retiring or getting ready to retire, start looking at your records a year prior to you retiring or getting out of the military. And I say that because you don't know your ailments until you retire, to be honest with you. You may run into something time you retire. I ran into cancer time I retired. So I didn't know I was going to run into cancer, but based off of my records, my PSA exams, and my history, when it comes to my family history, there were some concepts that, hey, eventually I would have cancer from doctors' perspectives after the age of 40. So knowing that, and my family and my father, my grandfather, all knowing that the men in our family were going to be struck with this particular disease, this particular cancer, I was able to get checked regularly and kind of catch it before it got to a level 4 stage. So I would encourage men to, while you're in the military, get checked. Not just for those things that are visible, like Ariel said, but those things that are not visible. ED, erectile dysfunction. I have no qualm in talking about it, because you're going to have to get checked. You're going to have to tell somebody. You're going to have to talk to your doctor. Don't be afraid to talk to your doctor about it so your doctor can treat you. Eventually, you're going to run into that as well. As a prostate cancer survivor, I've ran into that. I've had to go through a period of not being able to, if you will, have sexual intercourse. So men, you're going to have to stand up and let your doctors know what's going on with you, and let them know, hey, here's the problem. Because if you can't have sexual intercourse, that's a problem. So you know that there's something internal that you need to get checked out. So once I got checked out, I found out that I had cancer, went through my treatments, and I'm back to normal. So what you have to do is ensure that you keep your records straight. Ensure that you keep your records straight and in line. I remember when I was getting ready to do my disability, my first stab at my disability paperwork, it was a nightmare. And I know a lot of us don't want to get that detailed, but guys, I'm telling you, you got to get detailed when it comes to your health, your life, and your health span, your lifespan. Because if you don't, man, you're going to find yourself sitting up with these ailments, and you're not getting paid for those ailments. So Ariel, I encourage each and every man that's under the sound of my voice and on your podcast and listening to your podcast, get to your doctor, and get to your doctor now. Whether you feel anything or not, get to your doctor now. Have an MRI done. Have them check from your toenail to the last hair on your head. Because I tell you, guys, I know some guys who've gotten a certain percentage because they don't have toenails, because they're infantry and they've walked so much, marched so much in these boots until the toenails have just come off and they only have meat. So they're getting a certain percentage for that.
Yeah, and there's a couple of infantry guys specifically who have not claimed anything, who have not gone through the process. And I'm like, why not? And again, it's because they may not have current physical ailments or visible wounds. So they're like, no, that's for other people, or that's not for me. And and like you said, it can catch up with you later. And if nothing else, once you have that compensation, once you have that rating, and that they recognize that as service connected, you can get treated for it, whether it's PTSD, ED, cancer, whatever. You can get compensated, but you can also get treated for it and medication for it and all of that stuff. So it's definitely important.
Exactly. I'm going to give you, because I've done this, because I moved from Alabama to Georgia, I'm going to give you, the guys, a synopsis on, how I found out about a lot of free stuff when it comes to us veterans, especially when it comes to PTSD. Me having PTSD, you want to get your counseling. First of all, you start with a military counselor, and that's free. But when you step outside and you have not gotten your rating, and you need all of this, you've been diagnosed with PTSD now, but you have a 0% rating, or you have no rating. Now you got to go outside and get, if you don't go to VA, get a viable, trustworthy counselor. And that's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. And I'm not talking about copay costs. I'm talking about some serious costs. Because if you go twice, 2, 4 times, 6 times a month, that can add up. So I would encourage you to go ahead and get your disability paperwork done. Make sure it's service connected. Do what you need to do. I know a lot of VA representatives, they help with this stuff. Get with your current VA and have them, look at your records, help you with your records. Also, while we're on that, have at least 3 copies of your records, as well as have them on a disc and have them on a thumb drive. And I say that.
And have them in the cloud.
Yeah. And I say that from a learning perspective as well. You never know what may happen. So if you have at least 3 hard copies and you have at least a thumb drive and a disk and a cloud, you should be covered. You should be covered. But, your records, believe it or not, man, I tell you, and it may not be something that someone else did. It may be you moved and now you can't find your records, your hard copies. But you kept that thumb drive in a case somewhere, and you know where that case is. So you got to have a variety of avenues on where to go and get your records when it comes to you yourself maintaining.
All right. And Henry has a book out entitled American Hero, A Soldier's Story from Combat to Cancer. And he is very candid about, it's pretty much a biography throughout life. And I mean, I cried, I laughed, I snotted and boo-hooed cried. So definitely pick up a copy of it. And he is very open and transparent about a lot of things that he has gone through in life that most men, heck, most people won't even talk about. So I definitely encourage you to pick up a copy of American Hero, A Soldier's Story from Combat to Cancer. And he touches on quite a few of the things that we're talking about here today. So Henry, you gave some advice to the men out there, the male veterans out there. What advice would you give to the women out there who love those men?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you, men, we need women from the perspective of to help push us to go get checked, to go to the doctor. We don't like going to the doctor, so it's our women that are close to us. Our mothers, our sisters, our wives, our girlfriends, those are the ones that push us to get checked. And those are the ones that actually stay on us to do the right thing when it comes to our eating, when it comes to our exercising. So, and women have reasons on why they do that, but, it's just fact that, men need women to encourage us to go get checked, So, that's my answer to that. And when I read your book, your section in your book, her story too, like, wow, don't act all shy now. Like, yeah, I'm about to turn it on you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, she has a book out as well. Her and a few of her friends Coach Stacy, and Coach Stacy presents her story too. And Ariel is in there. She's talking about all sorts of stuff about her life. I'm just telling you. I won't, elaborate on a lot of stuff. But Ariel, you talked about in your book, you talked about in your page or your section, you talked about adjusting to life adjustments. What did you mean by that?
Wait a minute. This is my show. You are not the host. Wait a minute. What? No, you are not the boss of this show. You are not the boss here.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah. So back to my question.
So I flipped it.
Yeah. How can what should the women out there do in order to encourage the men in their lives? Because y'all are stubborn at times.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I've seen this. I've participated in several screenings now, and when the wives come in with their husbands or the girlfriend come in with their husbands, they're directing them. Go over there, you sit over there, and So it's gonna take some commanding from our ladies. It really is. And ladies, you all know how to do that. Y'all shut us down off some stuff, and we act right. So what I've seen is, women come in there and they direct, they command. So I would suggest that ladies, take charge. And first of all, sit your man down and tell him, hey, here's why I'm doing this. I love you. We want you here for more than 5 years, which is the lifespan after you retire. That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, read up on it. 5 years. They give us 5 to 10 years. They give you 5 to 10 years after you retire. If you do a full 20, 25, 30, 5 years, 5 to 10 years. So you sit your man down and let them know you want them here, longer than, what they say in the books, the 5 to 10 year time lifespan. Once they get it, then they will agree to go. They're still going to be reluctant to go because it's personal. We've always been hardcore. We don't want to be the weakling, or even look at it as being weak in no sense of the word. So we act tough. We may hurt. We may, feel bad. But it's the women's job to ensure that, we wake up and we realize that we need to be here for the family.
Thank you for that input, because that's going into the whole conversation on relationships. Mm-hmm. And I know you can talk more about that. You talk about that in your book and stuff. So do you want to go down that road?
Really? You can go down any road you want.
I know, because this is my show. I'm trying to make you think you have a choice.
That's cool.
How can a woman do that without making her man or the man in her life feel, you know what I'm saying, demeaned and less than a man? Yeah.
Well, like I said, first of all, you got to have that talk. Communication is key throughout any relationship. Communication is key throughout any relationship. So, and it's one of those conversations that you don't want to have, but you got to have. So when you and your man, ladies, you're out walking in the park, you're out at dinner, you're out somewhere without the kids, you're out somewhere, and it's time for a heart-to-heart. That's when, you let them have it. You let them have it in a manner of not demeaning, not where they think they're losing the manhood, but you have to go back to the sensual part. We all have some emotions in us. You have to touch that emotion. You have to touch that nerve, positive nerve now, within that man, so he can say, yeah, mine, as I say in the book, mine is my father and my grandfather. When a young lady says to me, you got to get checked, because here's what you promised your father. Boom. I'm listening. I'm listening now. You know, that's my point. I know what I told my father, and I know what my father told me before he died, you know, and he said he wanted me to beat this disease because he couldn't beat it. My grandfather couldn't beat it, so I had to beat it. And I did. And it took a woman to help me to get back to that, to get back into and put that in the book, really. So it really took a woman, you know, which was my mother, to get me back into the realm of what I needed to do and what was my purpose. So I would submit to you again, communicate, you know, push that right button. You know the button to push that right button to where it's an emotional button now, not an angry button, an emotional button. You got to know the difference. So that's the key to it all. And once you touch that button, ladies, you know, we're listening. It's like we're on automatic. It's like once that drill sergeant says something, you know, your ears perk up and you're listening to the drill sergeant because he's teaching you something that you're going to use later on in life to save your life and someone else's life. That
tough love.
Tough love.
It may not always be an easy pill to swallow, but you know they're doing it out of love and your best interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll go back. I'll entertain your question about
the question, huh?
the anthology that I was a part of called Her Story Too, where we talk about being survivors of domestic violence. And we share our stories in that book. But since we're on the lines of relationships, and so when you were saying all of that, I was sitting here thinking about how much power we have as women, how much influence we have, how much how much we matter. And sometimes we forget that, or sometimes we allow things that happen to us throughout life shadow our sunshine, shadow our light. And we get down into that deep, dark place and we don't realize how much power we actually have, or how much influence we actually have, how much love we give, and the things that we as women are capable of doing. We give birth. I mean, we bring life into this world. That's amazing. That alone is amazing.
It really is.
So as you were saying that about, you know, how the women have affected you in your life and how we just need to take control, take command and say, hey, babe, love, brother, uncle, whatever. Hey, you need to get checked. Or, hey, I read up about this. Go see a doctor about it. Make sure you're not going through this or whatnot. And that it's okay. That you're not less of a man if you get checked. You're not less of a man if you file your VA disability. You're not less of a man. It makes you a stronger man. It takes courage to do those things, and it shows your strength. And it's a whole respect thing as well.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, you said something that's key. You know, when you're talking to the men, go get checked. A lot of the women, you're going to have to take your man to get checked. You got to take your brother to get checked. You got to take your father to get checked. Because you can say it all day. We agree, we'll shake our heads all day. But we won't make that appointment.
Stubborn.
So ladies, you're going to have to go. You're going to have to make the appointment. You're going to have to go and ensure that he's going to the doctor's office and not That's what we do. Sorry, fellas. I hate to tell you. I hate to put it out there like that. Read the book. Read the book.
So speaking of relationships, what else do you have to tell women out there, or men, or both, when it comes to relationships and communicating and being there for one another, especially through hard times?
Well, that's a loaded question.
I know.
The load.
I'm trying to stump you.
Yeah, no worries. The load that you bear when it comes to relationships, and I'm specifically talking about men and women, the load that you bear is you have to be able to communicate. We all know that, and we say the word communicate, but communication is a tough word to kind of master, if you will. All right. So after communication, you have to be able to be happy. Happy is also a tough word to get when you're in a relationship. And sometimes many relationships struggle to have that happiness. That's why we are where we are today with divorce. That's why we're where we are today with couples cheating on each other, because we don't understand happiness. We don't have full communication, you know. So, you know, in my world, in my mind, you know, and I've been all over the world. I've been through many relationships and been married. So, you know, not that I'm a physician or a therapist or anything, but through learning, communication is major. Okay. And I'm about to stump you. I'm about to tell you people something that's real good right here. Your audience. I know you got a great audience, and they're smart too. So finances, financial health between both man and woman has to be discussed, has to be understood, and one will have to help the other, of whatever it may be, or both come together with the same, and you create a healthy financial situation. So those three things, and that's just three. I can go on and on and on, but those are just three things right now that are very detrimental to relationships today.
And I agree. Because like you said, I've had different relationships, been married twice, divorced twice, and a lot of that is covered in my chapter too. And communication is a key. And actually self-love, I'll put that in there. Self-love and knowing yourself and understanding yourself and what you want in life. That's a huge thing as well. We've talked about a little of everything. Let me flip through the book to see if there's anything else we should cover.
Yeah, because, you know, when it comes to your life, Ariel, I know you've put it out there in the book, and, you know, with your PTSD, how did you deal with writing it in the book? How did you deal with that? What process did you go through to say, okay, I'm gonna leave it in there. I'm gonna let everybody know it. What process did you go through?
Okay, now you're asking me questions again, like this is your show. Okay.
I want to know, and I want your people to know.
Okay. So you're putting me on blast. All right. Oh, okay. Let's roll with it. Do you have your list of other questions that you want to ask me about my chapter?
Nah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Okay. So about telling my story in which book?
Yeah, her story too.
So in her story, I talk about abuse in relationships and abuse. The theme of abuse in the relationships that I've had. And that range from physical abuse to emotional abuse to narcissistic abuse, which was new to me. And writing that chapter, because I've also co-authored 2 other books other than her story, but that one was the hardest for me. I actually spoke the words and had something recorded and then had somebody transcribe it, because when I was to write the story, it was so hard for me. And so I just sat in front of a recorder and just went through like the last 20 years of my life, pretty much. And when I got it back to edit it from the editor to look over it, I cried. So it was like reliving that again. And I remember asking you, because you had your book out like 2 years ago, right?
Right.
So I remember asking you, how did you feel about telling your story and sharing as much as you did? Because that is very open. And I only shared one aspect of my life. You shared a little bit of everything. Right. And I remember asking, how did you feel when you gave the first person that book to read? because you were one of the first ones to buy a copy. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, he's going to read it. Is he going to judge me? Oh my goodness. I mean, I had like a mini anxiety attack.
Right.
But then I realized, you know what? We just like I say with everything else, you have to share your story, and sharing your story is a way to heal and a way to help others heal as well. But it was definitely a task. It was not easy, but I am so glad that I did it. So you got a copy of my book, and then I got a copy of your book, and I read your book. And like I said, I cried, laughed, everything, got angry, everything. But it helped me to understand you even more and appreciate you being able to be transparent and share your story. And it also taught me some more things about myself and just, life in general. So I think that is very, very important. And shoot, after I read your story, I was like, mine's nothing.
Stop. So do you think your book
and he's asking me another question. Go ahead.
This came about. Do you think your section in your book really touched others? Because I've seen you out. I've seen you speaking elsewhere. And I see how the audience are all like agreeing and shaking their heads and agreeing that, hey, they've gone through the same stuff. So do you, in your mind, feel that you're actually touching people based off what you're written and based off what you're going through?
Yes. And that's what keeps me going. Because the days that I feel like I can't be strong for myself, I'm like, I'm going to be strong for someone else. The days that I'm ashamed or afraid to tell or open my mouth about it, I'm like, no, somebody needs to hear this. Because I know when I was going through, I felt like I didn't have anybody to talk to. I felt like there wasn't anybody out there that understood. People would look at me and call me crazy or whatnot. And I just needed somebody who had gone through that to say, hey, what you're going through is normal. You're not alone or whatever. And I've gone through it. I understand. And this is how I deal with it. So transparency is a huge, huge thing. Huge for me. Right. And I know sometimes people, like I'll post stuff on Facebook. Facebook for me, my timeline is kind of like mini reality TV. And I'll get messages and calls like, why did you post your business on Facebook? And I said, because that's me. And that takes the shame out of my story. And it helps me to heal. And I know there's somebody out there who it's helping as well. So I'm going to share, I'm going to be transparent. And that is my promise to my audience and the people who follow me, is to be transparent and to let them know that they're not alone and that their story is not over yet.
Yeah. And I think that's key. You took the words right out of my mouth. That transparency is key. When I meet people now, when I was in the military, I'm a totally different guy than I was in the military.
I don't believe that, but okay.
Well, from the perspective of being a leader and having to put on a certain face at a certain time, has always, been a part of me. But I've always had to realize, okay, I joined the military I worked my way up from an E2, a private E2, all the way from E2 to major. So part of me coming through the ranks, part of me as I became an officer, still wanted to be enlisted. Okay. So I had to put on a different face, is what I'm saying, as an officer. But my heart and my background was enlisted. So I knew who to go to talk to and find out what's really going on, So I had to put on a different face to go down and talk to my E2s, my E3s, my E4s, my E5. So as an officer, that face was more of, everybody respected that. But for me, it was different. It was that face that I didn't want to put on. But based off of the growth in me, my father pushing me, my leaders pushing me to become an officer, is when, hey, I had definitely improve myself and help the family. Because I'm one of the second officers in my family in this generation to become an officer. So that was definitely one of those things where that face. But now I still have that face when it comes to my civilian job as law enforcement now. But I enjoy it more because I'm working my purpose.
Right.
I'm working purpose.
Right. And that's huge. And I know on one of the segments of your radio show, someone asked, how did you find your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to share more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the oldest of 8. So leadership has always been a part of me. I didn't know it. My dad was always, putting me out front somewhere, making me do something. So I'm versatile because of my brothers and sisters. My sisters play the piano. Some of my sisters, I got 5 sisters. Some of my sisters play the flute. Different instruments. Like one of my sisters played the drums. So as the oldest, me going to these rehearsals, going to these practices, I'm learning, I'm picking up. So I became versatile, with instruments, singing, writing, all of that, because I'm helping my younger brothers and sisters, so that's why I'm versatile. So finding my purpose as I grew to my older years, I didn't know they were my purposes. I was just doing what I do. But after being struck with cancer, not being able to move, being in bed for months, not being able to do anything for months, I started writing, getting back to my writing. So as I was writing, I kept writing. As I was writing, I kept crying. As I was writing, I started to realize who I was, So that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
And I like how you say purposes and not just purpose. How you recognize that you have more than one purpose.
Right.
Even though they kind of overlap with one another.
Right.
Did you get busy on me?
I'm trying to get you back on the screen here. Okay. Gotcha.
Do you have any more questions for me since we're kind of flipping back and forth?
I don't. I really don't.
Oh, okay. That's because I asked you if you had a question, huh? But I do have another question for you. Being a Black man, I know that when it comes to therapy and sharing, there is definitely a differences among cultures.
Oh, yeah.
When you wrote American Hero From Combat to Cancer, how did your family take it? The things that you talked about in the book.
Yeah. That's amazing that you asked that question. Many people don't ask that question.
I'm arrogant. Come on. I dig deep. Come on.
That question is dear to my heart, because I held on to my book, no joke, for another 6 months before I put it out. My family, when I sent them the rough draft, they was like, don't put this in there, don't put that in there, don't put that in there. And I originally said, okay, got it. But after a while, I started thinking, started praying. I talked to my editor, and it was more of, you got to tell it. You got to be honest with your audience. Because if I had left all of that pertinent stuff out, it would not have been a good book, a good read at all. The emotion would not have been the same from your read. So after I put it out there, before I put it out there, I told my family, I'm not changing it. They were mad at me for a while.
Because did they know about the stuff that you shared in the book?
No, they didn't know a lot of that until I started to talk to them about it as I was doing my research. But they didn't realize that I was going to put all of that in there like that. I put it all in there. And they wanted me to deduct a lot of that. And I chose not to. Through prayer, through counsel, wise counsel, I continued to leave it in the book. And that's what made the book what it is today.
And just how do you have the courage to continue to share all that stuff and to be that open?
I'm not afraid because I'm working my purpose. God put me here on this earth for a reason. He let me live through cancer for a reason. And my reasons are in that book. And I want each and every person that reads the book, it may not be prostate cancer.
Yeah,
it may not be cancer.
Yeah, you don't only talk about cancer. You talk about relationships. You talk about molestation. You talk about all kinds of stuff.
So, anyone that reads that book has a connection with that book. So, as my board sat down and read the book, they were crying, saying that they've been through this. It reminded them of their life, how they got through. They haven't talked about it to anybody. So now they're talking to me about it, because I opened up.
And how has you opening up helped you?
Oh, I'm free. I'm free.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I love it. So, like I said, I think we've covered a little bit of everything. Definitely get the book. I didn't want to tell too much about the book because I want y'all to read it. You definitely have to read it. It's an easy read. It's an emotional read, but it's easy. It's not like 300 pages. You're not reading a trilogy.
Right.
But definitely read it, and somehow you'll be able to connect and find out more about Henry and the things that he's gone through as a man, as a Black man, as a veteran. Just, it's amazing. Again, that's American Hero, A Soldier's Story from Combat to Cancer by Major Retired Henry H. Washington III.
That's right.
How else can we get in contact with you, Henry?
Definitely. You can go to my website, www.henryhwashington3.com. You can also, like I said, if you need me to speak somewhere or you need me to come and talk to someone, you can definitely give me a call, 404-858-4670. And definitely just give me a shout. We want to talk about, if you're writing a book, you want to write a book, you want to talk about some things on how to write your book and the lessons that I've been through while writing. And I'm on my second book now. Please do give me a call. I'm not going to charge you anything unless you take over 35 minutes. So
we're going to talk about that. As your coach, as your business coach, we're going to talk about that.
I know, right? I know. But definitely give me a shout. And, if I can help you in any way, I'm here.
If you had to give one piece of advice to end out this interview, what would it be?
Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself.
You've been listening to the Veteran Woman Podcast. If you want to connect with Ariel and let her know what you thought of today's show, be sure to head over to www.theveteranwoman.com and follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter @The Veteran Woman.